may not have heard of the concept of slow breathing before. Breathing is kind of natural to us, isn't it? We don't think whether we're breathing fast, normal or slow. We just breathe. It is what it is. And we do it continuously, and we do it unconsciously, of course. So slow breathing is actually something very, very interesting, and I think one of the critical things to having optimal health as a person. What we need to understand is that breathing in and breathing out isn't sort of just a passive process. The heart is connected to the lungs are connected to the nose, everything is connected to our background nervous system that runs our body, what we call the autonomic nervous system. And we can actually influence how that autonomic system works by the way we breathe. Now, if you think that it doesn't matter how you breathe, I'd suggest you spend 3 or 4 minutes trying to breathe at 30 breaths a minute and see how you feel at the end of that, and then have a break, and then come back and breathe at 6 breaths a minute and see how you feel. And you will feel dramatically different. On one, you won't feel very good. On the other, you will actually feel calm and relaxed, almost a sense of peace. And it's no surprise that the act of slow breathing is a fundamental part of many of the meditative practices that were developed in Eastern religions and Buddhist religion and meditation practices coming from India and so forth, and have been incorporated into people's modern day practice. So what do we mean by slow breathing? We mean breathing typically at something like 6 breaths per minute. That's the ideal number. And probably the beneficial range is between 6 to 10 breaths per minute. And with a little bit of practice, it's not that hard to do. We'll do an example later on in the video. Now, our normal breathing range might vary anywhere between 10 to 18 breaths per minute. And some of us will have ordinary breathing, where we tend to use a lot of chest, or even in some cases muscles, like so. And a few of us will have really good breathing where we're using our diaphragm to breathe. So slow breathing is characterized by breathing in through the nose and then out either through the nose or the mouth, and spending half the time breathing in and half the time breathing out, or occasionally a little bit longer breathing out than half, and trying to aim for that 6 breaths a minute, which of course means that one breath takes 10 seconds, and so we're doing something like a 4-second breath in and a 6-second breath out, for example. And with practice that can be readily achieved. Why do we bother doing that? Well, it turns out that when we breathe in this range of 6 to 10 breaths per minute, what we are doing is activating that autonomic nervous system, our background or housekeeping nervous system that is connected to our heart, it's connected to a whole bunch of things, including our brain. And the main nerve related to that autonomic nervous system is the vagal nerve. And by optimizing vagal nerve function, we can essentially convert ourselves from a less optimal state of our autonomic nervous system, which we call sympathetic arousal, to the more optimal nature of our autonomic nervous system, which is the parasympathetic state. So we're able to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and that is via activation of the vagal nerve, and we do that through doing this slow breathing process. So essentially what we can do is we can dampen down our stress response by doing this. And that's kind of why when you practice this for 15 minutes twice a day, 30 minutes twice a day, you come out of the process not having done any meditation as such, just actually doing the breathing alone. You come out of it feeling very relaxed, like a washed over sense of calmness. It's because of the secondary effect it's had on the autonomic nervous system. So it's something that I would recommend that people look at, have a go at and practice. And myself and a number of other colleagues published a paper, the physiology of slow breathing, in the journal Breathe in 2017, summarising all the actual technical or physiological changes that go on in the human body related to this. And really the evidence is quite overwhelming of its the nature of what slow breathing induces and then the potential benefit that can accrue from that. So if you have stress in your life, and I would say that constitutes almost all of us, especially if you have disrupted sleep, especially if you have persistent pain, which is a stress state to be in if you have persistent pain, then slow breathing will be part of helping you master that pain, feel that you can control the pain rather than the pain controlling you. And you'll have an ability to optimize your autonomic nervous system. The way that we actually measure what is happening with our autonomic nervous system is looking at the variation of your heart rate. So your heart rate actually goes up and goes down, just a little bit above and a little bit below as you breathe in and as you breathe out. So that's called heart rate variability, HRV. And there are little smartwatches and Fitbits that will actually give you your HRV reading. And if you have one of those on and you get in an argument with your boss or your spouse, your HRV will start to deteriorate. And that's an example where stress is changing what is actually happening. And during that argument, you're actually changing your breathing. Your breathing rate is going up and you're taking smaller breaths. So by slow breathing, and in particular, when you exhale, you're not just passively exhale by letting your chest go down, but you actually contract your diaphragm to force out air. You're working your diaphragm on the way in with the breath, and you're working your diaphragm on the way out with the breath. The diaphragm's a pretty special muscle. It's one of the two muscles in the body that never stops. One's the heart, obviously, and the other is the diaphragm. So it makes sense to us as humans to make sure, yes, is our heart as good as it can be, and is our diaphragm as good as it can be? And people don't think about exercising their diaphragm, but the way to do that is to concentrate on slow breathing. Because when you slow your breath down to 6 breaths a minute, each breath has to be done really, really well. You can't do a rubbish breath and only do 6 of them for a minute. So it forces you to do a full breath in and a full breath out, and that's maximal utilization of your diaphragm. So without further ado, let's just maybe practice this together. I'll do one, and whilst I'm doing one, you do one as well. So we'll try and do it at 6 breaths a minute. Here we go. Not too hard. I actually feel relaxed just doing that right now in front of you, in front of the camera. And that was only 2 breaths. So imagine if you did that for 30 minutes. It's a worthwhile thing to do. If you haven't done it, take some time, turn off the TV. The TV will still be there when you come back. Have a go at it and learn about the benefit that something simple and free and repeatable, and you can start to teach others as well and share with your network of friends, and how much you can incorporate that in your life for some health benefit.